Welcome to week 2 of the class, Visionary Leadership. Today I want to talk to you about what it means to shape a missional mindset, both in you as a leader and also in the congregation that you serve in the future or the ministry that you lead. You know, there are many leaders today in the ecclesial world that believe that there is a movement of God taking place that is more transformative than anything we've seen since the Reformation. It's a move from a church-centric approach to ministry to a kingdom-centric approach to ministry. And church leaders all over the world are making this transition, and those that are making it are involved in nothing short of what's being called cultural change, as we transition or have transitioned from a modern mindset to a postmodern mindset. These shifting paradigms in our culture demand us as leaders, and especially as leaders in the church, to pay attention, to what is happening, to this new, yet what some consider ancient way of thinking that impacts every aspect of life and ministry. Reggie McNeil teaches that for a better future, for the church requires that we realign our theology and practice with the primary storyline of the kingdom. Make no mistake, the narratives of church and kingdom are very, very different. Very different. Churchianity, what I like to call folks who are just focused on the activities that take place within the four walls of the church. It teaches us to gather, but it does not teach us to go. Churchianity teaches us to sit, to be entertained, but it doesn't really teach us to walk in our faith. Churchianity teaches us to observe, but not to immerse ourselves, not to live incarnationally. It really comes down to an attractional versus a missional approach to ministry. In a church that's only concerned with what's happening in the four walls of their building has missed the calling of the kingdom. And sadly, there are a lot of those. It's time for the church to get over its self-absorption and to adopt a larger, more compelling story of God's kingdom as its reason for existing in the world. It's troublesome that many do not recognize that there's a problem. It's troublesome that many do not recognize that there is a disconnect between the kingdom of God and the church that Jesus established to advance that kingdom. They fail to recognize that these are competing narratives. They fail to recognize the difference between church and kingdom because those storylines have been blurred. You know, it doesn't take long in the context of many local churches to realize that most Christians, believers, believe that the church and the kingdom are one and the same. There's a widely held set of beliefs among churchgoers that one, God's primary agenda on earth focuses on building the church, often talking about brick and mortar. And two, what happens on Sunday mornings largely defines the mission and ministry of the church, that being attendance and offerings. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong here. I've built buildings. I've been concerned with offerings and even attendance because I believe those things tell a story in and of themselves about people's commitment. But I also see the difference between the church functioning as a place for people to gather, to consume in and of themselves, and a church being a place where people are equipped to engage the kingdom in the world throughout the week. Now, in the context of these beliefs, the growing cultural dissatisfaction with the institutional church is a pretty discouraging situation, actually. A 2012 Pew study of religion in America showed that 1 in 5 Americans now claim non-affiliated as their religious identification. That's up from 1 in 6 in just 2007. So for the millennial generation, that number is almost 1 in 3, 32% up from 1 in 4 just 5 years earlier. Now, a better future for the church requires that we realign our theology. It requires that we realign our practice. It requires that we take seriously what it means to equip our people for the work of the kingdom in the world, with the primary narrative not being the church, but the primary narrative being the kingdom. We must learn to untangle these competing storylines if we are going to be relevant and have a voice that means something in a postmodern world.